And as the puzzle pieces started to fall away, it felt like life was one big Halloween game, and the mask was coming off, and the true face of reality, of true nature, of God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, was shown. And all this time, I thought I had a mother, I thought I had a father, I thought I had a girlfriend, I thought I had a brother, I thought I had a sister, I thought I had myself. But all along, it was the same being dressed up as all these other characters. And in that moment, the masks in my life started to fall away, and the true nature, which I call presence, was revealed. And I got the smallest taste of it. I sensed like 1% of it, not even like anything crazy. And it was so precious and so beautiful that this time, again, I was begging and pleading for another chance. But this time I wasn't begging and pleading so I could go back out into the world and fulfill all these goals. I was begging and pleading so I could have another chance to actually actualize this in my life and be in touch with it while I'm living. Because to me, it felt like this was the entire point. And if I wasn't connected with it, which I wasn't up until that point, I'd completely missed the point.
Welcome to the Xander Trip, the podcast where we dive fearlessly into the mysteries of reality, decode the mechanics of this immersive game of life, and hunt for the ultimate cheat codes to unlocking God mode. You're about to step into a 3-part series that might just change how you see everything. Over the next 3 episodes, I'm joined by someone truly special, Tej Dosa, entrepreneur, writer, and modern-day philosopher who has spent years reprogramming his mind and diving deep into the spiritual rabbit hole. This is part 1 of a very unique conversation. If you've ever felt there's more to this dream than meets the eye, buckle up. This episode goes deep. Let's begin. Tej Dosa, welcome to the Xander Trip.
Thank you for having me, bro. I'm very excited to see where this conversation goes.
I'm super excited as well. I want to spend this time with you diving into the mysteries of reality, the mechanics of this video game, and the cheat codes that you've discovered on how to play it. From everything that you've studied and all the experiments you've done in your own life, what is your current best thinking on the true nature of reality?
What a beautiful question. The first thing that jumps out, and usually when I try to answer these questions, I like to answer them not as an idea in my mind, but whatever arises for me in response to your question. So the first thing that jumped out and that arose for me is, and it makes me emotional to even say it like this, but reality is the most loving, most beautiful, 100% responsive form of life that there is. And what I mean by 100% responsive is it's 100% benevolent, it's completely trustworthy, it has your best interests at heart. And also, the more you allow, the more you're in touch with reality, the more it flows through you. And what I notice in my own experience is a lot of my struggles and suffering is me trying to control the wheel of life. But when I let go of the wheel, reality always surprises me in the best way possible. And I'm always reminded of how good life can be when I let go of the wheel. So for me, reality is the true nature of who and what we are. In this moment, there's not really two of us talking with one another. It's reality arising through both of us. And it's quite beautiful that we're the same being, but we have different points of view and perspectives. So it's like the fingers of the hand. But in this moment, the most beautiful conversations for me are when 2 fingers get together and they allow the hand to guide the show. And the hand for me is reality. And recently what I've been really unpacking is how reality is so benevolent, and it's completely different from how our conditioned sense of reality is. Our conditioned sense of reality is full of a lot of struggle and turmoil, and rightfully so, because a lot of us had very difficult experiences, or even not so difficult experiences, but they still disconnected us from the underlying fabric of the true nature of reality. And society as a whole doesn't really see it, right? We just get lost in games. But ultimately, the real game is to discover the true nature of reality. And for me, discovering that quenched my thirst in a way that I could have never, ever imagined. I used to search for all the answers. I got into business when I was very young, and I thought the answers were going to be in making a lot of money. And there was some truth to that, but it never quenched the deepest thirst. When I quenched the deepest thirst, it was when the true face of reality was shown to me, and all I could do was quite literally fall to my knees in recognition of how beautiful and precious and good this life and reality truly is.
That's so beautifully put, bro. So beautifully put. Was there a specific moment where you saw the true face of reality, where you truly felt the benevolence of this space, this dream?
Yeah, one of the first few times when I did inner work, I remember I had a session and it was pretty deep. And after the session, I like to go on a walk to just like digest and allow it to marinate. And I went on this walk and it was a sunny day. And every single person that I passed, no exaggeration, they were young, they were old, they were kids, they were elderly people, and every animal, mostly dogs, that I came across were all smiling at me through their faces. Like every single person was smiling, and it felt like the entire world was smiling. And the message, can I curse on this, by the way? The message that I got alongside those smiles was, you're finally starting to get it, motherfucker. So that was one of the initial moments. But there was also a more traumatic experience where the true face of reality was shown. And it was so beautiful that I, quite literally fell to my knees thinking that I'm dying, and I never had the chance to be in touch with this. And now my life is coming to an end and I missed the entire point.
Can we go into that experience?
Yeah. So to kind of give you a little bit of a backstory, this is a different experience, but when I was 16, I got, I was going to say a bad case of alcohol poisoning, as if there's a good case of alcohol poisoning. It was New Year's Eve, and I remember I went to this party, and then I drank from like 7 p.m. till like 5 a.m. or something crazy. And I remember at 16, I was in some random girl's washroom, and I was puking blood. And I was like coming in and out of consciousness to the point where it didn't even feel like it was my blood. I was like, oh, there's a lot of blood on the ground. That's kind of weird. I didn't really know it was my blood. But anyways, there's like people surrounding me. And I remember at that age, I was like pretty much a pussy. Like I wanted to do a lot of things with my life, but I was just living with a parking brake on. I wasn't really accelerating in the areas that I wanted to accelerate in. And in that moment, I felt like I was dying, because when I started to recognize all these people are surrounding me and it's my blood, I felt like I was dying and I had never really lived. And in that moment, I remember pleading for a second chance, saying, hey, if I get a second chance, then I'm going to, take all the stuff that I have written in my overpriced moleskin notebooks and I'm going to bring them to reality, especially like life goals or business goals or career goals that I was too scared to act on. And obviously, spoiler alert, I'd survived that experience. And for the next 10 years, I went deep into really actualizing my goals in the world and making a lot of money and getting business success and doing a bunch of stuff that I wanted to do that I was always too scared to do. And I thought that if death comes to greet me now, I'm going to be good. Because I was sold the saying that if you achieve your goals and you fulfill your dreams, and then when death comes, you won't have any regrets. So I was thinking that I'm chilling, I'm like mid-20s, making good money, have pretty much everything that I want. And I'm like, man, if this is what I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, if death comes, I'm not going to be like how I was when I was 16, begging and pleading for a second chance. I'm going to be good. Fast forward a couple of years later, I had another near-death experience. And this time it was pretty traumatic in the sense that things started to, my life started to fall away. Like it felt like a puzzle piece, and all the puzzle pieces started to fall away. And all the goals that I had spent and dedicated the entirety of my life towards fulfilling were just a small little puzzle piece. And from that vantage point, it didn't really seem like a big deal, like all the stuff that I was focused on. And as the puzzle pieces started to fall away, it felt like life was one big Halloween game, and the mask was coming off, and the true face of reality, of true nature, of God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, was shown. And all this time, I thought I had a mother, I thought I had a father, I thought I had a girlfriend, I thought I had a brother, I thought I had a sister, I thought I had myself. But all along, it was the same being dressed up as all these other characters. And in that moment, the masks in my life started to fall away, and the true nature, which I call presence, was revealed. And I got the smallest taste of it. I sensed like 1% of it, not even like anything crazy. And it was so precious and so beautiful that this time, again, I was begging and pleading for another chance. But this time I wasn't begging and pleading so I could go back out into the world and fulfill all these goals. I was begging and pleading so I could have another chance to actually actualize this in my life and be in touch with it while I'm living. Because to me, it felt like this was the entire point. And if I wasn't connected with it, which I wasn't up until that point, I'd completely missed the point. So that's kind of what sent me down the spiritual rabbit hole. And I was like, man, I had like PTSD for like a year straight after that, because it's kind of like having the masks taken off and then the masks come back on, and you're kind of just like, wait, what the fuck? Like this isn't really what we perceive it to be. So for a year straight, while I was kind of going through my version of PTSD, that's what really skyrocketed my dive into spirituality, because I was like, man, I have to get to the bottom of this.
So many people that are probably listening to this as well are living their life trying to check off those boxes, the money box, the relationship box, the health box, and to realize in a moment like you did that, oh, this was all a Halloween party in a sense. Is the true goal of this reality then is to work on our oneness or our presence or spirituality? How do you see the goal of this existence on this planet, on this specific realm? Because there's some people that say, well, you're here for the fun of it. Enjoy it. Don't take it so seriously. What's that famous quote? Like, man suffers needlessly because he takes
right.
so seriously what the gods made for fun.
Right.
Then there's the flip side of that of like, no, you're here to fulfill a mission. And if you don't, you'll keep reincarnating in samsara. So how do you see this whole existence based on everything you've learned in your life?
For me, I see the human being as a bridge between the world and the metaphysical. So I perceive the point, if you will, of life to be fully in the world, but not of the world. So what I mean by that is to be fully in the world, have relationships, build things, do things, have friendships, go on adventures, live this life to the absolute fullest, but do it from the part and place of you that is not a human being, that is actually deeper, that is actually the source of a human being, which is true nature, which is presence, which is your essence. That to me is the point of this. So for me, it's not enough to just be in touch with one side. I want both sides, right? I don't just want to be chilling on the sidelines of life, blissed out. I want to be in the fire of life and blissed out simultaneously. I want to be building things, but to do it while being connected to presence. So that alone, regardless of the wins and losses, the highs and lows, is the greatest gift and the greatest blessing. Because like I've had more cool experiences and I've done a lot of cool shit in the world, but I've had more cool experiences sometimes just chilling on this couch and being in touch with presence.
Yeah.
So for me, the way that I understand it at this point, maybe next year it'll be completely wrong, but at this point is to be fully in the world, but not of the world. Because I think when you're in the world and you're also of the world, then you're kind of just food for evolution.
What helped you integrate in that year post that experience where you saw everything as one, or where you saw the masks come off of the people that you knew in your life? How did you integrate that?
For me, the integration, because at the beginning of that experience, I remember I was going to New York like a week later, and I was going with my girlfriend, and I was like pretty stoked about that trip. And I remember I'm like, fuck, I'm dying. I won't get to go to New York. And in the beginning, when I thought I was dying, I was saying all my loved ones' names out loud. And it felt like I was leaving them here behind. Right. And then it was very traumatic because, you know, when a loved one passes away, it's traumatic because you lose one person. But to the person that's dying, they lose everybody. So it's like, imagine, you know, when you lose a loved one now, times that by how many loved ones you have. That's kind of like the pain that I was in. And even when I'm talking about it now, like it's emotional. And I remember I was saying every single person's name out loud. I remember my sister, she had just started medical school in Australia. And I was like, man, I'm going to fuck up her schooling. She's going to have to catch a flight to come to my funeral. Like it was like crazy thoughts like that. And then I remember the experience continued and it felt like I passed through something. And then I started laughing. And when I started laughing, the laughter comes up now too. The reason I was laughing was because at that moment, it was revealed that I actually don't leave anybody behind because they were all a part of my consciousness. So all this time when I thought that, you know, all these people and individuals were separate, there actually was no separation. And I don't leave anybody behind because it's the same consciousness. And then I was filled with such delight and such joy that I just started laughing. And in terms of integration, it was difficult in the beginning because when I came back into normal, quote unquote, reality, it was like everybody's in on it, but they act like they're not in on it.
They gotta. The game must go on.
Right? And I'm like, I know you know that I know that you know, but let's act like we don't know. Right? So for me, the way that I actually integrated was to actually go into the sewers of my consciousness and to actually bring up all the painful experiences that I went through in childhood that gave rise to emotional reactions, which disconnected me from the qualities of presence. And by going into those experiences and actually being with them in an open, undefended way, the experiences would open back up to the qualities that I was disconnected from. So for me, it was a journey, and it still is a process of actually going into the difficult parts inside my consciousness and working on those to reconnect and to restore what I call factory settings or your superhero powers.
Can you run us through a process that someone listening to this could do if they're struggling with a memory from childhood, or they want to transmute that or feel that fully? If something's coming up and they're like, I know this is a block and I know this is a wound and I even maybe know exactly what the memory and the wound is.
Mm-hmm.
But now I don't know what to do with it. Do I go to a therapist? Do I do psychedelics? Do I try to revise it in my mind, relive it from a different perspective? What would you, if you were coaching someone or running someone through a process, what would you tell them is the best way to move through that?
Yeah, for me, I can only speak on what's worked for me. But for me, the way that I've seen it is in order for healing or transformation to take place, it's not enough to just bring up the wound. The wound needs to be met with presence, and it's presence that does the healing. It's not the mind that does the healing. It's presence that does the healing. So in order to facilitate a process like that, I think, and what's been very impactful for me is actually working with teachers that are quite advanced who can embody a deep state of presence regardless of what I bring up. And in that space, the experience gets metabolized and digested and held in the comfortable arms of presence, and it relaxes in my consciousness in return. But if somebody doesn't have access to that, the way that I would go about it is use your body as an anchor for presence. So what I notice sometimes is, and I notice this in myself, in the beginning, I would go through those memories and the memories would completely overtake me to the point that it quite literally felt like I was in the childhood home and I wasn't in this space that we're in now. So the way that I would hold presence is before even going into it, I would do a meditation, a grounding meditation, one that was belly centered, that really allowed me to drop into the here and now. And from that place, I would naturally see and kind of swim through my internal consciousness, which is essentially my body, and start to get a felt sense of what's happening. So like in this moment, I would be like, I notice I'm here in this moment, and I notice a slight pain in my heart. And I would get curious about the pain. Like, what's this pain about? Can I just take a couple breaths into the pain? And also, while I'm doing this, what was a great support is to actually feel where I'm seated on the sofa, to feel my feet on the floor while I'm going through this process. The feeling the feet on the floor and where I'm sitting on the sofa would be embodying presence and not losing myself fully in the emotion or the memory. So then by exploring it, it's the presence that is created, that is always here. But by feeling your feet on the floor while you're undergoing a process like this, once it meets that part of you that really is lacking presence, that's why it feels like such a difficult wound. It's because you felt that wound, but nobody actually met it with compassionate, loving arms. So that's why it became so difficult. And now we think if I were to re-experience it, it's going to feel just as shitty as it did back then because there's no presence here. But what we can learn to do as adults is actually get in touch with presence and allow presence to meet the parts of us that we don't show to anybody. And in those moments, transformation happens. And it's the most beautiful thing. It's like, hallelujah, finally, this feels so remarkable. And for me, every time that happens, it quite literally feels like there's choir bells going off inside my consciousness. And the overwhelming sensation is hallelujah and welcome home, child.
That's so similar to the feeling that I've had on some psychedelic experiences, such as Bufo, 5-MeO, DMT, where you merge with oneness and you feel this unconditional love and unconditional peace. Mm-hmm. I know you've had some mushroom experiences, and I'm curious if they've had a profound effect on you and if you've ever been called to explore deeper into the realms of psychedelics.
Yeah, I remember I had 2 mushroom experiences. That's the only experiences I've had with psychedelics. The first mushroom experience was like, would describe it as a pretty fun experience. I feel like the first time you do a psychedelic, it's very fun.
They give you beginner mode. It's like a grace mode.
Exactly. Yeah, like imagine just being hit with like a left hook from Mike Tyson on the first round. It's like, bro, not doing that again. But I remember the first time I did it, it was very fun. I was like out with a couple of friends and we were kind of in this forest. And the trees were talking to me, and the trees said, "You're killing us." And I was like, that's interesting. And I was like completely not really in touch with nature or trees at that point. So I was like, that's interesting. The trees can talk. But obviously I was tripping, allegedly. And then that was the first time, and I just remember feeling so expanded and just so open, and everything was funny, and it was a great time. And then I was like stoked on this. I was like trying to tell everybody, "Yo, you got to do this. Like this is awesome."
Classic.
I was like, and they could really feel it. Like they could sense like how impactful it was even the first time, because it's like going from being so zoomed in to being so zoomed out and experiencing the exhilaration and the freedom that comes along with it. And I was just like, wow, like if everybody did this, like the world would be transformed. So I remember I was so excited to do it again. This is like a couple of years later, and it was kind of hard to get at the time. And it took a while, but I was like getting impatient because I was like, man, like I can't wait to do this. And I had at that point convinced one of my cousins and also one of my friends, and they also wanted to do it. And then we finally got our hands on it, and I did it at the beach, and it like completely kicked my ass. It was like all the left hooks for Mike Tyson at once. And I don't even know, like I was so careless. I don't even know how much I did. I just remember taking a bunch and then doing Wim Hof breathing on top to really accelerate the effects. And yeah, it was like pretty much having my unconscious be shown to me. And I was like, holy shit.
Like the sewers of the mind?
Yeah, like all the painful stuff that I like essentially, disconnected from, hid away from, was like revealed. And I was like seeing it, and I was like traumatized. And I was like, fuck. And it was like, yeah, it was I would say it was like the worst and the best trip. It's only two I've done. But that again was an experience that kind of opened up a lot. And then for me, it was like, I can't just go back to normal life. Like I need to understand. I need to get to the bottom of this. I need to actually, because I do have a felt sense that I lived a similar type of life before. And I ignored the clues. I didn't follow the clues. And I do have a sense of like having that life end and being filled with not like punishment or like judgment, but just like genuine sorrow over the missed opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. I feel that in my life too. There's certain moments where, I mean, the first time I ever did DMT, I knew that I had done DMT before in a previous life at that exact same location. It was almost like one of those moments in a video game, like a new plot point begins, new chapter begins. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is where I discovered DMT and have a brief moment of awakening. And what you said about like the missed opportunities, sometimes I'll be in a mushroom trip or meditating and I'll look back through the years. I'm like, wow, that was available to me then, like a mentor that I never took advantage of or learned from. This opportunity that it was always there, but I missed it. And it's a reminder of things. Okay, make sure that now you're paying attention to the clues and you're not missing it now. Because it's so easy with hindsight to see those opportunities. In it, you're like, oh, I'm all alone. No one is helping me. Meanwhile, the universe, the spirit guides, the angels, every single force in existence is like, just do this.
Yeah.
But they can't force you to do it. They can only invite you to do it. As far as I can see, that's probably one of the rules of the game. And so unless you're paying attention, which is why meditation is so important, any type of work around inquiry, you're missing it. You're missing like all of life.
Yeah. For me, what's so beautiful is following the clues is the living of life,
Right.
right? So it's like when I'm not really in touch with the clues, am I really living or am I checked out at the wheel and just repeating the conditioning?
What if, and have you had this experience where you're listening, you need guidance, and it feels like it's silent? It's like that liminal space before there's a new quest or a new mission, and you've completed a mission, or you feel like you could keep going, but it wouldn't be the same flavor anymore.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I know I can keep going with work or with business or with everything that's working. I can do more of this and more of this, but I feel like I'm supposed to pause and look at the video game and choose a new direction, or at least reevaluate the video game. And you're sitting there and you're like, okay, what's next? Have you had that moment? And how do you navigate those what's next moments?
Yeah. I think in those moments, the silence is what is charging you back up for the next quest. I think silence and stillness, I guess, to be more precise, there's like when you sense into stillness, at least for me, when I sense into it and I sense into silence, it kind of feels like the beginning before sunlight arises and a new day begins.
The darkest before the dawn.
Exactly. And it's like restoring and recharging and bringing old parts that may be dimmed down back to life. It's like spiritual surgery is being conducted in the silence. So for me, sometimes my mind, tries to jump ahead of it, or sometimes my mind resists something that I know to be true, something that I need to be doing. I feel it through the belly, through the hara, through the gut. And my mind, the conditioned part is a product of society. So I carry society with me everywhere I go through the conditioned mind. And when I listen to the conditioned mind, it doesn't know anything about presence. It doesn't know anything about the totality. It doesn't know anything about the oneness, about the one grounded being that gives the rise to all forms. It thinks it's alone. It thinks reality is dead. It thinks it's just running the show. And the objective is to just max out the stats in the video game. So the mind sometimes tries to get ahead of it, but there's no fooling reality.
Yeah.
Reality knows you better than you know yourself, and everything you experience is designed by reality in order for you to actually wake up to yourself.
So in those moments of silence, just rest in there and charge up and see what arises.
Yeah. So the way that I like to, practically speaking, the way that I like to structure my day is the first half of the day, let's say 6 a.m. till 12 p.m., noon, I use my mind a lot. So I have certain levers that I know are fruitful. If I pull, they will lead to more opportunity. They will lead to, a better life. They will lead to whatever.
Can you describe those first 6 hours?
Yeah. So usually it's pretty much more or less the same. So I'll wake up and then I like to do 30 minutes of meditation right away. I think
before you look at the phone, before any of that, you're still in that dream space a bit.
Exactly.
And you're meditating now.
Exactly. I think that dream space is so critical to hold on to, and meditation actually prolongs it. I think when we wake up in the morning, and I do this sometimes too, I'm not saying I don't do it. I probably did it like a handful of times last week. But it's like when you wake up in the morning and you start scrolling Twitter, you're quite literally injecting your mind, the purest part of your mind.
Yes.
With some bullshit on Twitter.
Yep.
So
a hit of cortisol.
Exactly. Right? It's let me eat that for breakfast.
It's too peaceful. Let me check what's on Twitter. What's Trump doing right now?
Exactly. So I like to do meditation to kind of just prolong that. And the type of meditation that I've done is varied. I used to do more of a creativity type of meditation before, which would kind of give me ideas related to marketing or business. But for the last 5 years, I've been doing a belly-centered meditation, because I've really been trying to ground my energy. I'm more prone to be in the head and to kind of be a little disconnected and kind of run away, like try to go up into the mind to seek safety and just like live out here. So I've been really consciously trying to bring my attention back into the body, back into the belly. And the belly for me, or I think generally speaking, is also the action center. So for me, I do 30 minutes of the belly meditation, and then I go on a walk, usually around sunrise. And I like to get in the sun, and I like to go on the walk, not talk to anybody. And then when I come back is usually when I do deep work, which is like fixed based on whatever I'm building at the time. So that's kind of like the morning. And then after 12 is when I have completely unstructured time, usually. So from like 12 to 6, that's where I'll take my foot off of the gas and the mind is no longer running the show. And I open myself up more to reality. So I'll spend a lot of time in nature. I'll run some meditation. I'll do some inquiry. I'll follow the clues. And that in return, the second half of the day always creates something that which gives rise over time to the first half of the day. So the projects that I'm working on naturally start to change. And it's the second part of the day that infuses the first part of the day. I notice if I just go straight deep work all day, which I've done, like sun up to sundown, then over time, my connection to the creativity gods and to intuition starts to dim down. And now I'm just like repeating as opposed to actually learning and growing and moving in a direction that is right for my individual consciousness.
That is so true and so profound. And, I read about your 4 hours of, spend the first 4 hours of the day on income generating activities, is how you put it in one of your tweets or newsletters. And that's really changed the way that I live life, because it's so true. You get that done, and then you allow life to show you and reveal to you what's next. And I'm also noticing, like, even though the second half of your day is unstructured, in a way it requires discipline, because when you have unstructured time, you could fall into the Twitter deep scroll, or the Instagram hole, or whatever comes up across your radar. Are there techniques that you use to be like, okay, I'm done with the mind at noon, let's say, but I'm not going to use this unstructured time poorly. I'm actually going to use it for studying something, doing some sort of journaling, like, or is it purely discipline? How do you see it?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think it takes more discipline to follow the unstructured time than it does to follow the structured time. Right. And it's like, I remember I first heard about this from Trevor G. Blake, which is great person to check out. But I remember him saying, I schedule walks in nature into my calendar and I view them with the same importance as an investor meeting.
Mm-hmm. You're meeting with your mind, or meeting with your subconscious.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I just have things installed which just make it not even like I can't even access things if I want to from those hours. So it's like I just remove all options. I close all doors, right? And it just makes it easy. I just have it blocked till like the end of the year.
Cool. Is there a blocker app that you recommend?
I use a cold turkey blocker.
Cold turkey, cool. What's been the most interesting thing that arose from your unstructured time in the last 6 months or so?
It's a beautiful question. Usually, as of recent, a lot of the unstructured time has been a continuation of actually diving deeper into presence. For me, there's so many mysteries to explore. And it's like, whoa, like you can literally just sit on your couch and go on the greatest adventure of all time. And in a way, you're navigating your own consciousness, but eventually your own individual consciousness connects to the more, the total or, consciousness at a higher level. And you can explore universes upon universes upon universes. So there's different things will unfold. Sometimes it's like projects or things to build or new skills to learn. Or it's like, hey, I want to talk with this person that I haven't spoken to in some time, and I just feel an inclination. So different things like that. as of recent, it's just been a lot of marinating in the benevolence of reality. Like it feels like being held in the arms of God. And I've just been chilling in the arms of God.
For someone that views reality in a neutral way or even a hostile way, how can they start to call in the presence of that benevolence and see reality as purely benevolent?
Yeah. So this is where, and I get it, like there's parts of me that still see reality in a hostile way, right? The parts that feel disconnected from presence, they still feel angry and full of rage and hateful and spiteful, and they want to attack and they want to, there's a whole world inside this consciousness. So I get it. Like when somebody is like, what are you talking about? Like, dude, reality is not that, right? Like, people are pissing me off or like, I got these problems. I get it because there's parts inside me that feel the same way. What I've come to understand is all emotional reactions, especially the negative ones, are arising because there's a certain quality of presence that is supposed to be in your consciousness, but it is currently missing, which in return gives rise to the emotional reaction. There's a saying, you've obviously heard of it. It's like you have everything you need inside you. The way that I understand that is there's qualities of presence, qualities of being that will naturally arise in response to the situations of life if your consciousness is liberated and free. So, an example, if, let's say, you're presenting something and somebody's being a little bit hostile towards you, then your consciousness will naturally take on the flavor of strength, and you will actually employ that strength to stand up for yourself in a dignified manner and actually present your case. If you're in the presence of somebody that is in pain, your consciousness will transform into deep, sweet compassion and actually be there for the individual and hold the individual's pain. If you're in, you got a to-do list to do and you got tasks on your to-do list, your consciousness will transform into will and it will be solid like a mountain and it will stay the course and it will actually give you the support and consistency you need to actually complete the task. Now, what happens is, this is just my understanding, could be wrong, but what happens is through childhood, we become disconnected from these qualities of being. They're still there, but we're disconnected. So to us, it feels like they're not even there. That's how it feels. So let's say you go through an experience. That quality of presence was supposed to arise to help you meet that experience. But since it isn't there or you're disconnected from it, it doesn't arise. And in response to it not arising, you start to feel anxious, you get angry, you start to distrust, you become doubtful, you start to become hostile. So if you're missing strength, the emotional reaction will be to get angry. And you think you're getting angry at the person, but you're really getting angry at how this quality was supposed to be here, but it's not arising.
Wow.
And it's unconscious. So if you're doubtful, let's say you have emotional reaction of worrying and stressing, you're usually disconnected from the quality of trust. If you're experiencing a lot of depression and sadness, emotional reaction, you're disconnected from the quality of joy. If you're experiencing anxiety, you're disconnected from the ground of being. So in a lot of our cases, we have these emotional reactions. We're anxious, we're afraid, we're angry, we're hateful, all the parts that I have inside me too. And these emotional reactions are there because those are the parts of my consciousness that are missing the strength, that are missing the joy, that are missing the will, that are missing the compassion. So for me, a smart way, to use more of the logical mind, to actually figure out which qualities of presence I'm disconnected from is to actually pay attention to which emotions do I usually feel on a daily basis. If I feel a lot of stress and worry, it points to I'm actually disconnected from the benevolence of reality.
Right.
If I experience, anxiety, I'm disconnected from the will and the ground. So then I can kind of troubleshoot my consciousness. I'm like, I've been feeling a lot of anxiety. Instead of trying to go on YouTube and type in what supplement should I take, L-theanine to the fucking rescue, I'm like, okay, Let me maybe double down on the grounding meditation and restore my access to the ground. Let me actually feel the feet under my feet right now. There's nothing I have to do in this moment to earn this support. If I simply feel my feet on the floor, the support of a reality is here in this moment. It's always here. But when I get lost in story, when I get lost in mind, I become disconnected from the ground, which in return creates anxiety.
Wow. I have never thought of it that way, but I can absolutely hear the truth of that in so many ways. The person that gets angry is the person that is angry that the strength is not there.
Yeah.
That's kind of mind-blowing to me right now.
Yeah, that mind fucked me so much to see that in myself.
And I was also thinking as you were talking that one of the simplest ways to see if you've grown as a human is to see if your reactions to things have changed.
Right.
And that's exactly what you're talking about here, is that the person that is fully integrated, fully secure in themselves and who they are and the world supporting them, they may have gotten angry as a kid or as a teenager, but now they can tap into that strength, or they can tap into some sort of centeredness in them that they've cultivated over the years.
Exactly. And I had experiences like that where in the beginning, like, let's say somebody like attacks you, right? They like say something to you and you're like, fuck this guy. And you're like, like, especially as men, I think sometimes we start fantasizing like, yo, I'm going to fucking kill this guy. Fuck this guy. Like you go completely off the deep end, right?
All part of the game.
Right? And I remember I would have experiences like that, right? Where it's like days have passed and I'm still thinking of it and I'm like pissed off and I'm angry, right?
Yes.
And then like as of recent, I've had similar experiences, but instead of like actually being angry, I actually felt the strength, like this lava-like energy rising in my consciousness to meet the moment before me. And it was like vertical and it was very strong and it was like fire was unleashed, not in a destructive way, but just in a boundary is a boundary. You're going to respect this boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that after that, it was like similar situation. There was no anger that arose. It was just strength. So I was like, oh, I was angry before, not at the person. I was angry essentially at God. Because my experience, and this isn't true objectively, but my experience was God abandoned me when I needed it. I needed the strength, which is the quality of God, and it wasn't there. Now I'm angry, but I don't see it because it's unconscious. So instead of being angry at God, I'm really going to try to kill this motherfucker before me.
Or the way I was thinking of it also is your inner child is angry.
Right.
And you as the adult, when you have that strength, you're protecting, you're defending that inner child.
Yes.
Rather than letting the anger fly.
Right.
Which means you as the adult don't have that strength.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So fascinating. And you also mentioned something interesting, that a depression means you don't have access to joy, or how did you put it? The thing that you're lacking is joy.
Yeah.
So if someone is listening to this and they are going through depression, they may be like, no shit, Sherlock, I don't have joy. But I know what you're trying to say, and I wonder if you can go...
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I wonder if you can go deeper.
Groundbreaking discovery. Yeah. If you're depressed, you don't have access to joy. Round of applause, please.
But could you dive deeper into that as to how someone might practically use that insight to actually go and find that joy wherever it's hiding?
Yeah. So I think the first thing to realize is joy isn't an emotion, but it's a quality of being. Right? So it makes sense. So usually if somebody is depressed, or I'll just speak about the parts that are depressed in me, because I don't like talking about other people, because, people like to hold their wounds pretty dear to their heart. And most people don't really want to get rid of their suffering. If you take away somebody's suffering, they will beg and plead to hold on to it, because their identity is wrapped up in suffering. Because we don't truly realize how good life is, that when somebody tries to take away our suffering, we hold on and we fight for dear life. Because then if we let go, we would actually wake up to how good life actually is and was this entire time, which will make us reconsider every single choice and every single action we took to get to this point, which obviously isn't what people want to do. So they would rather, hey, don't take my suffering away. This is, So I don't like talking about other people. Talk about the parts that I found in myself that were more depressed, that were more in the dark, that were, living in the basement on the crossway floor.
On East Hastings.
Oh, dude, I love the people of East Hastings. Yeah, I like how you brought East Hastings. Shout out East Hastings. Yeah, so what I noticed in myself, and I'll share, like this actually happened in the session that I was exploring today. So when I was working with the teacher, I was, exploring, and I was feeling like a part of me was feeling very dimmed down. And there was like, on the surface level, like if you were to use the ocean analogy, I was just faintly aware of the waves on the surface level, but I wasn't aware of all the stuff underneath. And on the surface level, I was just feeling a little dimmed down. And I was like, yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm just feeling dimmed down. Like I feel like my heart is in a little bit of a cage. It's not fully free in this moment. And by staying with that and kind of going into that, I basically had an experience where I was in touch with a very young part of me that felt like he was quite literally in the dark, in the basement. That's where I used the basement analogy from. And he had been screaming out for help for so long. Nobody had heard him, that he had now become completely mute. And he was just sitting there essentially waiting for death. And that in return was giving rise to a feeling of being dimmed down, but at a deeper level, the feeling of depression for that part. Right? So that's how I felt in my consciousness. All the lights in the room are gone. And in a way, that's a defense. So you don't have to actually truly see the true state of how shitty things are. So it's like, it's better to be in the darkness. And that's where I found that part of me just chilling in the dark. After having cried out for help for who knows for how long. And usually we think that if we feel depressed or if we feel sadness, we got to use the mind to kind of give ourselves a pep talk and be like, get over this, or like, what's wrong with you? Look at your life. Look at how good you have it. But that's not really the solution.
That's not what that child in the basement needs to hear.
Exactly. Yeah, because the adult is chilling, the adult is having fun, the adult is living life in the here and now, but the child doesn't even know anything about the here and now.
Mm-hmm.
The child is still living in, who knows what year.
Frozen in that
Exactly.
period of time.
So the reason I mentioned that, and I'll loop back around to the depression question, but for me, the way that unfolded was I got into the basement from a place of presence and actually got into the depression. I became curious about the depression. And even curiosity about the depression changes the experience.
Totally.
Because curiosity is light by nature. Curiosity is actually joy. So if you can become curious about your depression, you have now unlocked the quality of joy. And this is the beginning of breaking free from that depressed part.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I was like, oh, this really sucks. I'm in the dark and it's, I feel these wounds and I've been screaming for so long and nobody's hearing. Oh, let me become curious about it. Let me become curious about this part that's been in the dark. Let me give voice to him. What does he want to say? And I started becoming curious, not trying to change the part, not trying to use this as a tactic because the part can sense when you're for real. Just being sincere and being curious. And by being curious, that part naturally reveals the pain that it's hiding. And this is also where I feel my feet and I have the support of teachers, but as that pain is revealed, it then gets absorbed and metabolized in the loving arms of presence. And what happened for me just earlier today is that room went from pitch black to radiate light shining through the windows and lighting up and illuminating the entire space. And that was like, hallelujah. So it was by going through the depression, not by identifying with it, not by turning it into a story, but by becoming curious about it. Because the part that is curious about the depression isn't the depressed part.
Yeah, I think there's a fear in people that if they go look too closely at the depression or the wound or whatever it is, that they will get pulled into it and they'll never come out, and then they'll get even more depressed.
Yeah.
And so it's like I so understand that curiosity angle, and I also see how someone might be afraid to get curious about that darkness that's in them.
Yeah, 100%. Me too. I was scared shitless. Some days I still am. But what I noticed was it's important to actually be in touch with your body, to become curious in that way. Not to become curious about the story, or although that could be part of it. Usually when we think we're scared that this is going to swallow us whole, it's because we're identified with the depression and it's a story. But if you bring it back to your body, it's really helpful. So it's like, oh, I feel depressed. Where in your body do you feel depressed?
Right. Yeah.
What does it feel like?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it feels heavy. What kind of heaviness? What happens when you take a couple of breaths into the heaviness? So always talking from your experience, not talking about your experience. Because if you talk about your experience, you're in story. And if you're telling a depressed story, it's going to deepen your identification with that story. So it's really important to embody presence and talk from your experience while feeling your feet on the floor and where you're seated on the sofa while you do this.
So talking from an experience means you're there with it, but you're not identifying with it?
Yes, an example of talking about my experience is like, oh, in childhood, like, I had like a really tough situation, right? I'm lost in story. Like, it's really hard to change that story. Talking from my experience is, oh, in this moment, I notice in my heart, I'm feeling this like painful scream. Oh, let me just be with the scream.
Yeah.
So it's like the scream could be related to the story, but I'm not even involved in the story. I'm constantly focused and talking from my experience now. And there's intelligence in our experience now. All the answers are hidden in our experience. You don't have to go anywhere to find the answers. You just have to stay with your unfolding experience. And you do that by talking from your experience. Right. So like for me, I was like, yeah, I'm feeling really, really dimmed down in my heart, and my experience unfolded, and there's a dark room. And then I continued to talk from my experience, and there was like shining light, and I was the light, and it was radiating. And I was like, whoa, like you just continue talking from your experience. Transformation and change happens really fast. What I noticed in my own experience, when I talk from my experience, transformation and change happens really slowly if I just keep talking about my experience. So whenever I'm talking to somebody else, they usually start with like some type of story. They're like, yo, today this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, fuck this, fuck that, fuck this, fuck him. I'm like, okay, what's happening now? Tell me what's happening now as you're sharing all this. And now they're forced to actually check in with what's happening now, which brings them into presence, which is where all the transformation occurs.
You just made me realize two things. One is you made me realize why I don't like the question of like, how have you been? Because it's immediately putting me in like, okay, what's happened the last month or the last week? And it's boring to me. I'm here now. Where am I going? What am I doing here now?
Right.
So I wonder if there's like a better social question that we can come up with that's like, what's present for you now? What's alive for you now?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then also, as you were talking, I realized the reason that my mushroom and other psychedelic journeys have been so profound for me is that the story cannot survive in a psychedelic trip. You are being put in the present moment, minute by minute. Minutes don't even exist. Seconds don't exist. You're present now, and you have to confront it in the now. And the mushrooms are also there. The spirit of the shrooms is sort of holding your hand and guiding you through it. And it removes the illusion of the story. You're forced to just be from it.
Exactly.
And that's why, for me and for so many others, the mushrooms have been so profound.
Exactly.
It's a shortcut to that state.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, like, I've had inquiry sessions where I felt very similar to how I felt on mushrooms without the mushrooms. And I think the shortcut is to just continuously, within the confinements of your own space with trustworthy people that can hold space, to just talk from your experience. Me and my buddy, we have like to allude to what you were saying, instead of being like, yo, how are you? It's like, what's arising now? What's arising now? What's arising now? And throughout our interaction, so we go to dinner or we're on a walk, we'll just like, talk about something and then be like, okay, what's arising now? Because your experience is constantly unfolding. And the way that I think of it is like I'm learning to surf the waves of life, the waves of reality. And in order for me to be, I haven't surfed, so I'm just like making up random analogies. But in order for me to be a good surfer, I need to be in touch with the water. I can't just like, put my surfboard some random place and expect to surf. So I say that because most of us just use our mind and it's disconnected from reality and we expect our life to work. So the better approach is to actually just get in touch with what's happening and what's true for you now. If you know, this is where I think psychedelics can be really helpful because they can show you the true nature, the loving embrace of reality. And if you truly know that at the deepest level of your being, then you can truly exhale fully and you don't have to keep a little breath in fear that it won't arise on the inhale because you know that you are good regardless of what happens. And that gives you a level of freedom to truly play and to truly be in the world without being of the world. So basically I said all that to ask you this. What's arising for you now, James?
I felt the exhale. It was so cool. As you were saying, like you're not afraid that there won't be another inhale. And also I had this funny visual when you were talking that, someone comes up to you angry and you're like, so what's arising with you now? Someone has no idea about the conscious work.
Yeah.
But I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful question. So what's arising for me now? Gratitude. Gratitude for this conversation. Gratitude for the flow of it that we're on right now.
Mm-hmm.
What's arising for you now?
Yeah, I notice what I'm always amazed by is like how the space shifts.
Mm-hmm.
My sense of the space and what's present in the space shifts when more presence is actualized. Presence is always there. It's me that's coming and going. But through conversations like this, when we can truly land and just explore, the actual physical space becomes infused with more presence. And it touches me very deeply. It's like seeing the presence of God through another human being.
This brings us to the end of part 1 of this series. To make sure you receive part 2, subscribe to this podcast and turn on notifications. In part 2, Tej and I dive straight into the paradox of surrender versus intention. How do we let go of the steering wheel while still setting big goals? We also unpack wealth and money blocks in a way that you've never heard before. We go into a deeper understanding of the presence that underlies everything. And we get into practical tools to build unshakable trust in reality. So do yourself a favor, subscribe to this podcast, turn on notifications, and keep your eyes open for part 2. Until then, stay curious, stay open, the trip continues.